Hello friends, family, total strangers. Today's video, I think it's just going to be a talking video. I might try to squeeze in a short hike to the Wave Cave. We'll see if I have time to get that done. But yeah, today's video is about why I want to hike the PCT. So to get into that, let's start with the Appalachian Trail. So I have been really wanting to hike the Appalachian Trail for several years now. One of my friends who I met in the early 2000s had done it back in the 90s, Darren. And it just sounded like an awesome experience. And, you know, I've grown up out west. I've spent my entire life pretty much out west, and I haven't really been back east. And I thought, what a great way to explore the east for the first time than on foot. So I've been really fascinated and excited about the idea of the Appalachian Trail. And 2 years ago, when I worked at Amazon, you know, I had gotten my job at Amazon, I decided that I was going to work through the Christmas season, through January and February, and then hike the trail starting in March. And that was my plan. And then I started working at Amazon and just realized that there's no way I was going to make it till March. So I ended up putting in my notice and left at Christmas, or trying to put it. Yeah, that's a different story. Anyway, I left around Christmas time, and so I didn't have the money to do the trail. So I wasn't able to do the Appalachian Trail. That was 2 years ago. And then last year, I had planned to do the Appalachian Trail again. I was all on board with it. I was working at the ranch. I was going to save up my money. The ranch job didn't get done till mid-May, which is a little late to start the trail. So I was thinking of doing a flip-flop. So starting it in Virginia, hiking to Mount Katahdin in Maine, and then flying down to Georgia, and then hiking from Georgia back to Virginia and do the trail that way. So that's what I was going to do. And that just kind of fell through. You know, I think I just there was several factors that made me lose motivation for it. But I still wanted to do the AT. It was still something that I wanted to do, and I thought maybe I could do it this year. But in the process of researching for the AT, you know, I knew the other trails. I knew about the Continental Divide Trail and the Pacific Crest Trail, the PCT. But I just wasn't that interested in them. You know, just because the AT was all this terrain that I've never done before. You know, I've lived along different sections of the PCT and the CDT, and I've done, you know, hiking here and there. So they weren't really on my radar as a through hike, at least at first. But as I was doing for research for the AT, these, you know, two other trails look really cool. And I decided that eventually I want to do those two. So I want to do the AT first, and then the PCT, and then maybe the CDT. You know, we'll see. You got to like the first experience before you go after the other ones. But that's kind of where my mind was. And this fall, I worked at on Tahoe, pretty much right on the PCT. I was within hiking distance to the PCT. I think it was about a 6-mile hike from the lodge that I worked at to the PCT. And just hiking all around that kind of got me a little more interested in it. And also my friends, Dutch and Nikki, Matt and Nikki, were talking about hiking the PCT. And I was like, well, if they're going to hike the PCT, maybe I should put the AT off for another year and hike the PCT with them. And that's pretty much how it shook out. They wanted to, they got their permit in November. So the permits come available in 2 rounds, in November and then again in January. So they got their permit in November. And at that point, once they announced they were going to do it, it was like, you know what? I'm going to do it with them. They invited me to do it with them. So, yeah. So here we go. I'm gonna hike the PCT. So, but let's get more into the reasons why I would even want to do such a thing, because it is a pretty intense experience. It's 2,650 miles, starting at the Mexican border, ending at the Canadian border. You're hiking the first 700 miles are through the desert. So desert hiking, you do get up into the mountains here and there, but desert hiking, and then through the Sierras, and then Northern California, through Oregon, and then through the Cascades in Washington, ending in North Cascades National Park, at the Canadian border. So there's a few different reasons why I want to through hike. If you're just wanting to get scenic beauty, a through hike is not the way to do it. You're better off, spending a few weeks or even months, just hiking in the Sierra, or just hiking in the Wind Rivers, or just going to, like, skipping around even from beautiful place to beautiful place, if you're just in it for scenic beauty. And I think that's one of the things that gets people off the trail, is they think it's going to be like this beautiful scenic hike. And there are definitely beautiful spots on it. But I also have no delusions. There's going to be boring stretches. There's going to be uninteresting stretches. There's a 20-mile section across the Los Angeles Aqueduct. So there's definitely, yeah, it's not all beautiful images. There's boring sections to hike. In a lot of ways, it's almost more of a pilgrimage. It's almost more of a challenge. It's like a physical and mental challenge. Can I hike this continuous path for, 5 or 6 months? Sorry for the coffee. So, yeah, I mean, I love hiking, and I love seeing beautiful things. And that's part of the reason I'm doing this, but it's more about the challenge of continuous footsteps from Mexico to Canada. And it's really more about the journey. Like, people would say, oh, well, you'd be better off, I had a comment, you'd be better off just hiking in the Sierras for 3 months. And which is true from a scenery perspective, or the Wind Rivers in Wyoming, from a scenery perspective, absolutely. You'd be better off just spending your months hiking in those, rather than, hiking through 700 miles of desert. But what a through hike gives you is, it gives you that won't, is it gives you this challenge. It gives you this community of all these other people who are doing the same thing, and it ties you to them in a way that just hiking for 3 months in the Sierra won't. So it's about the social experience. It's about the physical and mental challenge. And it's also about I lost my train of thought. Okay, I'm back. It's also about pushing yourself beyond your limits and finding new limits. It's getting mountaineering experience, how to use an ice axe. I'm I mean, it's an adventure. It's an adventure. And I think even more so than all that, I love doing things that I would never think to do. And I think this experience will do that for me, because I would never decide I'm going to hike for 700 miles in the desert. Like, I would never plan on doing that outside of this, like through hike. So it's going to take me through a bunch of terrain that I otherwise wouldn't have seen. And I really like variety of scenery. So just getting all that different variety from Mexico to Canada and hiking all these places that I would never otherwise hike and see these things that I would never otherwise see. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of, years ago, I did a trip to Ireland. I think it was in 2012, 11 or 12. I did a month-long trip to Ireland. And as I was buying my ticket, I realized that I could add another destination for very little money. And so for the first 5 days of the trip, I decided to go somewhere that I would never in a million years think to go on vacation. And like planning a trip, I would never go here. I would never plan my trip for here. And I did that because, I think we get, and it ended up being Denmark. I went to Denmark. I went to Copenhagen, and I loved it. And it was a really cool experience. And I never in a million years would have just planned a trip to Denmark. So, but I mean, I learned a valuable lesson from that. And that's, don't limit yourself to what you think you want. Just force yourself outside of your thought process. And I think that's what the PCT is, rather than just hiking in the Sierras for 3 months, is that it forces you outside of your box of what's beautiful. And it forces you outside of your box of what you want to see, this little cage that you put yourself in. And yeah, that's pretty much why I want to do it. So that's my deal. And I'm really excited to do this trip with Dutch and Nikki. One of the mantras of through hiking is hike your own hike. And so with that in mind, I mean, I plan on hiking it with Dutch and Nikki. I'm starting like 8 days before them, so I'm going to have to kind of keep a slow pace for the first few weeks to let them catch up. But after that, if my pace is faster or slower than theirs, if my idea of, how long I want to spend in town is different from theirs, like, it's one of those things that you can start a trail with people and you really want to be with them, but in the end, you do just have to hike your own hike. And if it just doesn't work, it doesn't work. And then, or, anything could happen. I could get off the trail for a week. My family is all getting together. I might get off the trail for a week to go see them. We haven't all been together in like 10 or 15 years. So if all my brothers and my parents are all together in one spot, I will probably try to take a week off the trail and go see them, in which case I'm going to get separated from Dutch and Nikki, and we're just going to be on our own adventure. And I may catch up to them, I might not catch up to them. But what it comes down to is, it's not, when you hike the trail with other people, unless it's a significant other, so they're going to be hiking together, you can plan, but you can't plan. It's just going to be what it is. Hopefully I'll get to hike the whole trail with them. And if not, I'm going to have a great adventure on my own, and I'll meet other great people. But yeah, that's my story. So if I did the hike to the Wave Cave, I will show that now. So this is the Wave Cave Trail. There's a ton of people out here. This place is not a secret. It's Arizona State Land Trust, so you do need a Arizona State Land Trust permit, which is $16 for an individual, $21 for the family. That includes the service charge. You can get the permit online and then just print it out. I printed mine out at the library. Yeah, it's gorgeous out here. Lots of people. It's a Saturday. I'm doing a quick hike before going back to town for work. I work tonight. So, yeah, it's awesome. But yeah, probably a weekday would be a better day to do this hike. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like when we get to the cave. So this is, again, the Wave Cave Trail. This is one of those trails that was probably featured in the local paper with the picture of the cave, which looks really cool. So now everyone and their dog comes out here. Literally everyone and their dog. Lots of dogs out here. Really cool though. Here's the cave. Right there. That was a really cool hike. It's short, only about 1.5 miles each way, but steep and exposed. But yeah, totally worth it. The Wave Cave. So thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and thanks for watching.